Taken. He wanted a cure. He found the Creator.
Chapter 10. Bearer of the Seed. Dina raced down the winding path, brushing past the elders, almost running straight into Father Jared. "So sorry, Father." She laughed and ran faster. "I want to be the first to tell him." Delmar breezed silently through the treetops, trailing the young woman. He was in a hurry too, but for a different reason. He needed to warn Anami and Azam. At first, he thought he was imagining things. Then thought again, or rather smelled it, skulking through the dense underbrush, creeping in the shadows. A stench unmistakable and terrible overpowered even the fragrant petals hiding him. Fallen, scores of them, rushing toward the city of Adama. Enoch's vision of the strange faded, feeling more like a dream than the hard reality of the drums still pounding in the distance. He rose from the altar of stones, stretched and replaced the golden rod, incense and myrrh into his leather sack for safekeeping. Blood coursed back through his stiff limbs, making his legs tingle as he stepped outside to gaze at the starry sky. The full moon peaked? He hadn't intended to stay in supplication so long. Suddenly the cadence shifted and the rhythm of the remembrance ceremony began. Dina's going to be angry, he thought. He had promised to join her for the tales. Enoch jerked toward the rustling. He wrinkled his horrible smell. The beasts are going mad with bloodlust. This must be the second kill tonight. Enoch slowly pulled his dagger from his hip strap and crept toward the rustling. "Enoch!" a woman called, running down the shaded path in front of him. "Enoch!" It was Dina, in high spirits. He tucked his dagger away, relieved. "Light of my eyes, slow down," Enoch said. "What brings you rushing about at this hour, and alone, too?" "Enoch, the others are coming. They will soon reach you. Oh, it is wonderful." Enoch laughed as he cupped Dina's face in his hands. "Tell me, what is so wonderful?" The tribunal has chosen," Dina said, still breathless. "You are the bearer of the seed and ruler of Adam's realm." Dina threw her arms around him and hugged him tight. "I'm so proud of you. Is it not wonderful?" Rustle. There it was again, that awful smell. "Indeed," Enoch said as he scanned the trail behind Dina. "The Ancient One has favored me for truth." But now the moment he prayed for had finally arrived. He did not feel elated. He felt afraid. "Did any beasts bother you along the path?" "Of course not. The Nesh Panel made sure of that." The fallen emerged from the bushes, exposing their deformed figures in the moonlight. "Get away from the human, pretty boy," the man-like form rasped, "and you may save your face yet." Anami held his breath, easing closer until he stood back to back with Enoch, who spoke with the woman called Dina. "You flatter yourself, rebel." Anami almost dropped his bow, stunned. "No, it couldn't be." "Tumural?" Anami gawked at the horrid creature. "At your service." Tumural laughed, but his companions snickered like hyenas. "From the eloquent Anami? Does my beauty leave you speechless?" "What happened to—" "Silence," Azam commanded, blocking the fallen. In one whisk, Azam brandished 3 weapons in each hand and raised them high. They were surrounded. Anami directed his bow toward Tumural in a flash. Delmar warned them the fallen were coming, but he hadn't expected so many. The plan was to get Enoch to the cove near the Cave of Treasures, a stronghold of the Watchers. They could protect him better there. "Anami," he heard Azam's voice in his mind. "Tell Enoch to go to the cove. I will call for help." Anami leaned. "Enoch, go to the cove." Enoch did not move. Anami whispered again. "Enoch, go to the cove." "What's that you're whispering?" Tumural called out as he and his cohorts began closing in the circle around them. "Are you asking that pitiful human for help? What a sad state of affairs." Tumural laughed so hard small ventricles in his scorched flesh flapped up and down. "Look at the Elohim begging a human. Your father has failed you, Anami." One step more and the fallen would be upon them. Go to the cove, Anami whispered desperately into Enoch's ear. If he moves now, maybe we can fight our way through. The stench was unbearable. His mind reeled. Father, how can we defeat this madness? Anami thought. Just then, a calm voice whispered, You have an aroma. Use it. His thoughts still. The beloved had once told him his singing was a sweet savor. Maybe I should. There's a fountain pure and clean. Anami sung at the top of his lungs. His bright tenor voice soared. From the mount of God it gleams. Azam jerked his head around and glared at Anami. Have you lost your mind? Azam swung his arc, stopping one of the crawling forms in front of him. Didn't you call for help? Why aren't they here yet? Anami fired back and kept singing. Without pausing, Azam jabbed with his double-edged sword. The sapphire-encrusted weapon pushed back two more fallen. Flowing through the land below, holy righteous is the flow. Anami sung louder than he thought possible. Holy righteous is the flow. Azam swung furiously, causing the fallen to cower and retreat. And the fire strong and sure, Anami modulated and continued his song with vigor. Everlasting it is pure, everlasting it is pure. Azam lowered his weapons and stared. The fallen were shrinking back into the bushy undergrowth along the path. A silver-haired human in a flowing robe of gold approached, followed by men in similar garments of red, purple, and blue. Azam smiled at the entourage lighting up the dark woods. Behind the men were Elohim. Greetings, Enoch, Father Seth said, beaming at the couple. I see young Dina has stolen my pleasure, but on such a joyous occasion I cannot fault her eagerness. Aged legs allowed it. And now I say this with a glad heart. May the ancient favor you, Enoch, ruler of Adam's realm. May the ancient favor Enoch, ruler of Adam's realm. The elders of Seth repeated in unison, laughing and patting Enoch on the back. Now, my son, Father Seth said more seriously, let us commune together. Preparations are underway. You will be honored at sun sleep tomorrow when the full moon is high. Praise the light, Enoch said. We have much to discuss, and I must gather your wisdom for the days ahead. Enoch took comfort in the familiar faces of his elders. But let us go to will protect us. A wise choice for truth. Father Seth stared into the darkness. There be strange things in these woods. Father Lamech stormed through the entrance. Enjoying yourself, Tubal-Cain? His voice was as craggy as his line. I see my son still waste strength even while this dark eve brings shame to our tribe. Lamech ignored the other guests, including the great Samjaza, as he ushered the elders of Cain inside. Have you no concern in that fool head of yours? Enoch now rules Adam's realm while we sons of Cain have been denied our birthright once again. Tubal-Cain jumped to his feet, simultaneously knocking his tray of food onto Naaman's lap. I am sorry, Father, Tubal-Cain stammered. Enoch has surely beguiled the council. We must make them see reason. Demand another ruling to— You idiot, you failed. Mother Eve will not budge. Naamah avoided her father, removed the sticky glaze. Her cheeks flushed and her eyes brimmed with tears. Tafara gave her a sympathetic smile. And you would bring her into our presence knowing she spies for them? Father, Tafara was merely— Tubal-Cain began. Silence, fool. Lamech pounded the table with his staff. Naamah cowered. Honored one, Medici Tafara pushed Lamech's finger away from Naamah's face and rose with the grace of Mother Eve. I will not waste water where there is no thirst. Father, please, Naamah pleaded softly as she tried to stop her cousin from leaving. Tafara is no spy. She has shown me great kindness this sun's sleep and lightened the burden of my duties so I could— Silence, girl, Lamech said. Is that all you can think of, how you may embrace idleness while my tribe is humbled? If you had been at your post, word of this treachery would have reached me in time. Perhaps a blow would strike some sense into your foolish head. Lamech lifted his arm to backhand the trembling girl. Enough, human. Samjaza blocked Lamech's blow. Do not blame your daughter for your poor judgment. Just say the word, Captain. Hazazel pushed his plate aside. Honored ones, please. Be at ease, Samjaza said, returning to his soul. You need not be at the mercy of anyone, save the Ancient of Days. Come now, listen to reason. The captain beckoned Lamech to join him on the cushioned floor. After all, did not the hidden Father bless Adam in the beginning, saying, Be fruitful and multiply and have dominion over all the earth? Your brethren confuse the wisdom of the Ancient One in this attempt to select a ruler. The hidden Father did not give you dominion over each other. Aye, you speak truth, Lamech said reluctantly as he sat next to Samjaza. Nema, get this mess cleaned up. He took a swig from his mug and slapped Tubal Khan on the back. Let's hear him out. Old items, grateful their father's black mood was subsiding. But this does not change the will of the tribunal. Cain's exile, except for his presence at our solemn festival, still stands, Lamech said. Tubal-Cain would have changed that. This Enoch will oppress us with his foolishness. You see how he insulted you, the very Elohim whom the hidden Father sent to redeem us, and just because he was not the one chosen to bring the revelation to us. Lamech, you need not let the shade that darkens Enoch's eyes affect your own. We will not deny the redemption of the Ancient One to anyone who seeks it, because sons. Father Cain peered through the folds of the entrance. May the strength of Adam's blood run through you. May you live long and find favor. The sons of the patriarch rose, showing the respect due a gold. Nema took the opportunity to make a quiet exit. A communion of the firstborns was no place for a woman. A Medici perhaps, but as one of the Sabasi, her place was among the stone fires and clay dishes that surely needed cleaning. She rose and tiptoed toward the opening as discreetly as she could, but a strong hand grabbed hers before she could escape. If it pleases the elders, I request the presence. As he held Nema's hand. Nema turned slowly to face the sons of Cain, already passing mugs full of the drink of power around. Her cheeks burned at the unexpected attention from the elders, but perhaps more so at Samjaza's request. Our fine meal has somehow found its way to the floor, and I'm not prepared for a fast this eve, Samjaza said with a laugh. Lamech motioned for Nema to stay. She's useful enough. Now, away with this talk of shame and oppression, Samjaza said, raising his mug high. I say we celebrate the wisdom of the tribe of Cain. They have the courage to curse be broken. Aye, may the curse be broken. The elders of Cain repeated as mugs clicked, drinks flowed, and laughter followed. Delmar studied the men assembled below, urging himself to remain still as he watched the young woman serve. She is very beautiful. He had arrived just in time to camouflage himself on the roof, hidden from the fallen who surrounded this dwelling and most others throughout the city. He could disguise himself from the best of Satan's warriors, though their training made them excruciatingly aware of the slightest movement. Very rarely did they think to look up, which is why Delmar's favorite concealment was to disappear overhead. If any did chance to gaze skyward, they would merely see a reflection of the heavens, which shimmered through his now transparent form. He focused his entire being on his mission as he recalled Azam's warning. Do not underestimate the pull of the fallen, Azam said sternly. Their very presence can sway even the righteous, and whatever you do, do not breathe their stench. It will cloud your judgment. Delmar pressed the soft alru leaves against his nose and inhaled the crisp aroma. Azam was right. The reek of them would drive anyone mad. Affected by the odor. Now he was thankful Azam made him bring along the alru before they split up. Even with the evergreen leaves, concentrating was difficult as whiffs of their foul scent permeated the room. Now, Samjaza, tell us more of this. Redemption. Lamech propped his feet up, leaned back, and clasped his hands behind his head. Would the ancient spirit be full and the offspring of an Elohim and a daughter of Eve? Samjaza kept eating. Nema, would you be so kind and bring me another? He quenched his thirst, then took a few more bites until Lamech sat up and folded his legs like the others. Finally, Samjaza plastered a gracious smile on his face. With a surety, Father Lamech, such an offspring would be full of perfection. Our eternal holy seed can only produce after its kind. What is born in holiness will remain in holiness. I see. Lamech almost huffed the words out. Samjaza smirked, remembering his observations of this human's tactics. Any time Lamech said, I see, in that manner, one could look forward to a long spell of bargaining and sting of the arm. Even Naamah, who still busied herself with cleaning, sighed with trepidation. Honored Benai Elohim Samjaza, Father Cain said, jumping in, please forgive my lack of understanding, but— Be at ease, Father Cain, and share your heart, Samjaza said. At least this one has the sense to address me properly. Well, I understand the offspring, bearing the seed and likeness of his father, would be free of the curse, but what about those who are sons of Adam? How would such a union redeem us? I see your point, Samjaza said. Of course you cannot re-enter your mother's womb and be born again. Samjaza continued quickly, Samjaza continued quickly, noticing the confusion on their faces. But the curse that ravages the blood in your veins can be avenged by a righteous sacrifice. Oh, that again. Father Cain tossed the remaining brew from his mug into the fire. No one can tell what sacrifice pleases the Ancient One. We Elohim know what satisfies the Hidden Father, and we would be more than willing to share wisdom with sons of Adam who have a covenant with us. I see, Lamech said. He stretched his hands from their resting place and cracked his knuckles. So speak the truth, friend, and tease me. If Father were to give the light of his eyes and the pearl of his soul, a daughter unblemished and true in marriage to an Elohim of high standing, what would that man receive in return? Well, I could not say just yet, Samjaza said with a smile as broad as the midday sun. I believe any Elohim of high standing would want, for we have no such communion in our realm. For instance, tell me, how is it done? The audacity! Delmar would have gasped, had it not been for the nauseating stench of the fallen drifting up from below. I cannot believe what I am hearing. To her credit, the beautiful girl blushed and looked as if she might bolt. Instead, she moved to the corner of the room and sat quietly, as if her stillness would make her disappear. Suddenly, the sons of Cain howled with laughter. Finally, after many snickers and elbows in the side, Lamech responded to the increasingly annoyed Samjaza. Friend, your own flesh will guide you. 'Tis true. Father Cain leaned in with a conspiratorial wink. To know a woman is the highest pleasure. Well, I may have seen some brute beast of the field carrying on in some such lowly fashion, but I did not think it so with you of Adam. Samjaza hoped the thinly veiled insult he had withheld from them the highest knowledge, and instead had given it to these simpletons. Not only could they duplicate themselves, but also it was some source of great ecstasy. Oh, but you are quite mistaken, my friend, Cain said. The beasts of the field respond merely to instinct, but we choose our own time and may partake of this pleasure as oft it coming forth if we so desire. Quite interesting, Samjaza responded blandly. And do tell the whole truth, friend. I hear Father Lamech has taken 2 wives, even though the Ancient One has not commanded it. Well, the Ancient One didn't say we couldn't have more than one, Lamech retorted. And he did say be fruitful and multiply. Who can blame me for being such a fruitful man? The elders of Cain laughed and pounded the table. Lamech almost fell off his cushion as the rowdy group slapped him on the back. Indeed, Samjaza said flatly. What freedom he has granted these imbeciles. They act without permission, choosing their destiny as it pleases them. Samjaza breathed deeply. Normally this soothed him, but his thoughts raced wildly and agitated him greatly. He could only think of one thing. Why? Why did Father reject us for these? Noticed the telltale fluctuations in Samjaza's aura as the fallen moved around him like shifting shadows, whispering into his ear. The captain was furious, though he hid it from the humans. At least he has Hazazel and Yemezrek with him. They will handle the fallen. But Hazazel seemed unaware of the dark spirits darting about the room, and Yemezrek was busy adjusting the hood on his robe as if nothing else mattered. Why don't they fight them off? Then Delmar remembered Azam's last warning before they split up. Never attempt to fight the fallen in your fleshly form, Azam said. Okay, sure, Azam. Delmar was already turning to leave. No! Azamar's arm and jerked him around. You must promise. Delmar tried to wriggle out of his grip. His arm was starting to hurt. Okay, I promise. Now he understood. Flesh could not prevail against these wicked spirits. In the flesh, Samjaza and his men were as weak as any son of Adam. Azam understood the lure. He escaped the rebellion, somehow crawling out of the stench of the accuser's last gathering, begging the beloved for mercy. If Azam, one of the greatest warriors in all heaven's realm, had almost fallen, what chance did these humans have? Delmar pressed his nose firmly into the auru leaves and focused on the girl. Maybe it was not too late for her. Naima sat trembling in the corner, fingering a golden band. The fallen completely ignored her. Delmar eased his way over until he was just above her head, careful not to make a sound, and focused his thoughts on the girl. Run. Go now. Delmar was not as skilled in voicing signatures as some Elohim, but perhaps he could make her hear. She blinked. Good. She heard me. Delmar focused his thoughts again. Run. You are in danger. Go. You must leave now. But instead of moving, she just trembled more. What's wrong with her? Then Delmar, she's too afraid to move. She can't see the fallen, but she can feel them. Delmar slowly inched downward and blended into the folds of the tent. There, if I can just whisper in her. Delmar stopped. A fallen dashed across the room and sat on its haunches in front of Lamech, while another walked over to Naima and placed his arm around her shoulders. Delmar quickly pressed himself back into the heavy tapestry. Now then, my friend, Lamech said, you never answered my question. What will you give me for the privilege of my daughter? The elders who had been talking hushed. For her, Samjaza said, staring at Naima, I will give your enemies into your hands. Chapter 11. Hidden. Tafara rushed through the wooded path, ignoring the sting of low twigs slapping against her head and pulling her hair. I should chop it. Without breaking stride, she pulled her sandy curls into a knot and sped up. She left the main trail and took the shortcut to Enoch's tent, convinced she would find her father and the elders there, but she was too late. She followed their fresh tracks until they seemed to disappear into an abandoned shed. They must be wanting privacy. Tafara laughed. I bet they're at the cove. The elders of Seth used the place for special times of communion. Not many outside their tribe's council knew it existed. Certainly no other women, not even the Medici. It would make perfect sense for them to dwell there tonight. I can catch them if I hurry. Tafara ran like the wind until the forest thinned, revealing the majestic peaks of the Seven Hills. The air was cool and damp from the rapids of the river Gihon flowing just ahead. Located at the base of Hill Shava, was hidden by mighty waters rushing down its rocky face until it cascaded over an abrupt cliff 90 lengths high. Tafara considered the waterfall. Come now, you did this before. She took a deep breath and plunged. Tafara swam about 18 lengths down to avoid the crushing waters, then glided straight toward the rock wall. Now, just a few lengths from it, she kicked toward the surface with all her might. Her lungs burned. She resisted the urge to breathe. Did I miscalculate? Her eyes bulged as she swallowed icy water. Hidden Father, help! In a moment, she broke through. Tafara coughed and shook her head of air as she treaded in the calmer waters. Voices echoed down the tunnel. The faint glow of their torches cast shadows on the cavern walls. Ha! I made it first. Tafara swam toward the sandy shore, dropped her soggy pack, and leaned against one of the boulders dotting the beach, waiting. A woman might grow aged and perish from the sickness if she spent her days expecting a man. Tafara said with a mischievous grin as Enoch led the elders into the cavern. Or does the ruler of Adam's realm care not that his own flesh and blood was left to fend for herself in the dark wood? Medici Tafara, Enoch laughed as he bowed. I feel sorry for any of you. You have much to learn, Bera. Tafara gave him a big hug and swiped his dagger from his belt. But at least you're honest. Tafara held up Enoch's blade. Now, if you remembered to bring a lottie cakes, I'll teach you how to hold on to your weapon. Daughter, why am I not surprised? Father Seth said, shaking his head at his youngest child. But you should not have made the dive alone. He scolded her even as she smothered his cheeks with kisses. You could have easily taken the trail to the tunnel. What is she doing here? Medici Dina entered the cavern last, dragging her bulging sack by the strap. I think you forgot something. I did offer to carry it, my love. Enoch lifted the satchel easily and carried it away. I could say the same for you, Medici Dina, Tafara said once Enoch was out of range. Why are you traveling with the council this eve? It is the only way I can spend time with my husband, dear, Medici Dina said. But you have no business here. Your place is with Mother Eve doing your duties as a Medici. I be training the young apprentice on my duties, Tafara said. She's handling my chores. What about your work? Should you not be attending your younglings? The young apprentice is attending my daughters while I'm attending my husband, Medici Dina said. If you were married, you would understand. Sounds like this young apprentice is lifting the heavy load. Father Seth stepped. Tafara, Medici Dina has a point. Why, pray tell, have you given your task to another? It is not the way of the Medici. Think of how great Mother Eve must feel, with her 2 best aides missing before the most important event in 7 ages. Medici Dina smirked. I have Mother Eve's blessing to join my husband tonight. Tafara looked down. But I had to tell you about Father Lamech. What news do you have of that sly one? Father Seth said. Lamech is furious. Tafara shivered in her soaked garment. He had the evil eye. When, daughter? Father Seth's voice rose, his cheeks flushed, and the vein in his temple protruded. Tell us what you saw. Easy now. Enoch laid a hand on his shoulder. I am not ready to bury another father. Let us refresh ourselves first and give Tafara a chance to dry off and calm down. Tafara rolled her eyes, but accepted the warm cloak Enoch draped around her shoulders. A fire would warm these old bones, Father Seth agreed, and we do hear the one mind best when our hearts are at peace. Anami watched the humans unpack and start a fire. The girl Tafara heated fresh water and began crushing an assortment of leaves into cups. That smells delicious, Anami said. Azam, what do you like? I don't know, Anami. I don't concern myself with these things. Whatever it is, it can't compare to anything we've had before. Besides, I'm glad we have no need of food and drink. The need of it makes one weak. I suppose you're right, but still, I would like a taste. Tafara gathered as many cups as she could hold and began passing them around to the elders, who were already deep in. One more for me and I will join the others. Tafara went back for the last steaming cup of ketu, sweetened with sprigs of honeysuckle. I could have sworn there was one more. Dear cousin, Tafara called out to Enoch, you know there really is no need to play such games. I'll gladly return your blade if you bring back my cup of ketu. What? What? Enoch asked innocently. My cup of ketu. It was right here. Just give it back. I don't know what you speak of, Tafara. Perhaps the dive has affected you. Going without air for such a long time can confuse the mind. I am not confused, Tafara said with a toss of her head. It was right here. Fine. I'll just make another, and you'll just have to get your own next time, ruler of Adam's realm. Now, daughter, Father Seth said gently, even though you and Enoch are close in age, now that he is the bearer of the seed, you will address him with respect. Yes, Father. Please forgive me, Enoch. All is well, Tafara. He tugged one of her curls as he did when they were childlings. Come on, Tippy, do make another cup of ketu and join us. Tafara stomped away to fix her drink, slamming pots and clanking cups as she worked. She has quite the temper, doesn't she? Anami said, as he sipped the cup of steaming ketu. Azam, I was right. It is very good. Anami! Azam yelled so loudly the other watchers turned and stared. Azam lowered his voice. "Put it back now." "I can't put it back," Anami said, taking a gulp of the brew. "She would notice. Besides, she's already making another cup. No harm done." "Fine," Azam said. "Just don't do it again." "Your wish is my command." Anami grinned. Tafara sat next to Father Seth as he blessed the fellowship. "May the hidden Father grant us favor and wisdom as his will is done." Father Seth passed his staff to Enoch. "Midi Tafara," Enoch said with new-found authority. "Please tell us what you saw." "Yes, Bera," Tafara said. "Nema and I were watching the great tales when Captain Samjaza and Tubal-Khan joined us. After a time, they invited me to the communion meal at Tubal-Khan's dwelling." "And you went?" Father Jared asked. "Father Adam would always want us to reconcile, and they are not all as Father Cain. Nema is as sweet as any daughter of Seth." "Medici Tafara," Enoch said kindly. "The Ancient One has enlarged your heart. It is my desire to end the strife too." Tafara relaxed. "We were having a fine time until Lamech showed up. He had this wild look in his eyes. Sure, Father Lamech there, but this was different." "The council cannot take action based on a hunch," Enoch said. The other elders began chatting and lighting their pipes. "Please, you must believe me," Tafara said. "Father Lamech accused me of spying. I used his rudeness as a pretense to leave, but truth be told, I was afraid. "Daughter, if you have nothing concrete, why trouble the council?" Father Seth said. "You are a Medici now, too old to sneak into council meetings and hide like you did as a youngling." "Wait," Enoch said. "You were afraid?" Those 3 words seemed to get everyone's attention. "Tafara may be high-strung, Father's no coward," another elder chimed in, putting away his pipe. "And she can fight, too," Enoch said. "Thank you." Tafara took it as a compliment, causing even Medici Dina to laugh. "I think I understand," Father Seth said after the laughter subsided. "In the early days, before we multiplied greatly, Father Adam and Mother Eve spoke of such fear, yet they were not unseeing as we are now. They saw the source." Father Seth leaned in, lowering his voice. "There be fallen among us." "I experienced the fear without cause this eve too," Enoch said. "I smelled something rotten outside my tent, and I thought a bloodlust beast was near, but I never saw or heard any animal in the wood." "You still have Father Adam's awareness running through your veins," Father Seth said. "My ability to sense the foul presence of the fallen has faded. Now only my heart leads me. Bless the name of the Ancient One, daughter." Father Seth patted Tafara's hand. "He guided your heart away from great danger." "But what of our people Enoch asked, getting to his feet. "We must get back and warn." "No, my son." Father Seth grabbed the cord dangling from Enoch's waist and held him back. "Patience, bearer. We will do them no good rushing in unprepared." "But we can," Enoch said. "Listen to reason. Son's birth is nigh, and we will not reach them before," Father Seth said. "The power of the fallen fades as the glory of the sun rises. Our people are sleeping. Those in the rest of the Ancient One are protected from the wiles of the fallen." Enoch paced around the fire. "But many will not rest tonight because of the celebration." Tafara glared at Enoch, pleading silently. "Do something. Do something." She knew he thought of Nema. "Enoch, the presence of temptation does not mean they will succumb," Father Seth said. "The Ancient One does not leave us without a way of escape. Tafara was there. She did not give in, nor did you. You perceived them and fought against it." Father Seth raised his hands to the heavens. "By the grace of the Hidden Father, we all travel through the midst of them unharmed." "Indeed," Elder Jared stroked his thick beard. "It seems if you want to resist the fallen, you can." "For truth," Enoch sighed. "Removing temptation is not the way of the Ancient One. Yet," Enoch said quickly, "I am not willing to leave them defenseless. We will make plans to leave at first light. I want to distribute the alru immediately so everyone gets their fair share." Bearer," Dina said, brushing back a wisp of his hair. "I didn't mention it earlier, but I did take a very small leaf from your pack to make a brew of it for Mother Eve." Enoch said, "Some days she will not even rise to take her meals and just stares as if we aren't even there." Dina spoke even faster. "I am truly sorry for the deception, but she's so much better after taking it. Why, you all saw Mother Eve at the tribunal, the way she put that Lamech in his place. She was her old self again. The fire of the Ancient One was in her eyes." Tafara hugged her knees into her chest and tapped her foot as Dina and the council droned on about people acting strange and how to grow Auru, how to trade Auru, how to distribute Auru. I would have passed out the Auru the moment Enoch arrived. She furrowed her brows. Poor Naima. I hate to think of her trapped in that tent with Father Lamech. The elders will sleep soon. I could sneak into the camp. Tafara stood up, stretched her legs, and feigned a yawn. Father, I think I will turn in early. That's my sensible girl, Father Seth smiled. Get some rest, and we will ask the Neshpanel to check on Naima. No need to trouble yourself further. Father Seth filled his pipe, took a long draught, and passed it to Enoch. As I was saying, I think we should go forth with the plan. Agreed. Enoch took a puff and coughed. After the ceremony, we will meet with the elders of Cain and propose the covenant. Have no doubt. Father Cain may be their most honored father and Tubal-Cain the strongest, Father Jarrett said, accepting the pipe. But it is Father Lamech who rules the tribe of Cain now, and he is a treacherous one. Mind my words, bearer. Be careful. Remember Abel, Father Seth added. He was too trusting, and he paid for it with his blood. Chapter 12. Gates of Sheol. Moloch clawed his way through the winding tunnel, grunting as he scraped away bits of rock in his haste. Lord El will be most pleased with our progress, Tamuril? Pleased is too small a word for such an occasion. Tamuril kept in step with Moloch's fast pace, but lagged a few strides behind. Yes, our master will grant us our kingdoms now. It is well within our grasp. So why are you dragging your feet? Moloch asked. You know how he is when we delay. Sorry, your ongoing transformation is too hazardous for me, Tamuril complained. Just last eve I got this blistering welt thanks to your freshly appearing talons, and on my tail end of all places. Well, no pain, no rain. Moloch repeated the cliché to comfort himself. Besides, soon everything will return to normal, right? I suppose these temporary setbacks are a small price to pay. Tamuril stifled a chuckle, but not before he gawked at the latest development, although some of us are paying more than others. What did you say? Moloch stopped. It doesn't matter, Moloch, really. Tamuril straightened his face. But just so we're clear, I was the one who inspired Samjaza. I will be the first in bringing the glad tidings. When Lord El asks for the news, I will go forward. Not so, Tamuril, not so, Moloch said, surprised at his raspy voice. After all, I intervened when you blundered the attack on Tubal-Cain, he added, not slowing his gait. The tunnel was darker now, almost pitch black. The Rivas was far away, and he was glad the painful rays of this forsaken land would not torment him any longer. Once the dangerous beams of the morning sun were swallowed by the encroaching cave walls, Moloch slowed and spoke again. Had I not redirected our company to the Seti of Adama, we would not have escaped unscathed. Randomness may have inspired you, Tamuril said as he seized the spindly tail and forced Moloch to face him. But do not be deceived. It was my cunning and forethought that led us to that watcher Samjaza and the sons of Cain. Had I not perceived they were ripe for the taking, there would be no glad tidings at all, now would there? Tamuril didn't wait for an answer. Instead, he squeezed Moloch's tail with all his strength until Moloch quivered uncontrollably under his grip. Tamuril released him with disdain, producing a glimmering sword, and held it at Moloch's neck. I wonder what would replace that pretty head of yours if you were to have an unfortunate accident. Moloch glowered. Hatred and cool concentration flooded his mind. Tamuril may have outmaneuvered me this time, but I am patient. Very well, Tamuril, Moloch said, allowing his voice to tremble. It is as you wish. Moloch stepped aside and let Tamuril take the lead. They walked in silence. Moloch could hear the heavy steps of their troop catching up. The intense heat of the caverns beneath the surface engulfed him. Heavy waves of sulfuric steam rose from the depths beyond and drifted up to the tunnel ceiling, which became increasingly higher as they traveled deeper into the darkness of Sheol. The shock of the intense blackness of the caves no longer bothered him as it once had. Somehow his eyes could discern shades and shadows. Even in the absence of light, he could make out Tamuril's form clearly, about 2 paces ahead. The others, the lessers, had not adjusted as well. They groveled and groped and stumbled into walls often, whining about their new abode. Give us light, they had demanded of Lord El. Moloch stifled a chuckle as he remembered his master's response. He'd grabbed the closest lesser and sent him sprawling into the boiling liquid lake in the heart of Sheol. The maimed, screeching figure that arose from that pool terrified some, but others were infuriated. News of a revolt spread throughout. It was I, Moloch, who told Lord El about the uprising and suggested the torches as a concession. He ignored the flick of the torches lining the walls of the broad path being lit. Had I not provided counsel to the great leader, Lord El, these weaklings would have surely rebelled. And now this upstart Temural thinks he can... Moloch stopped suddenly. The dim, fiery glow provided just enough illumination to cast large shadows on the wall. A disturbing figure stood before him. It was upright with legs like a man. Slick ebony fur covered it completely except for the talon startled him most. Gone were the gracious features of the Benai Elohim. In their place was the elongated nose of a wolf and the ears of a bull. Ah! Moloch bit back a startled gasp. His new reality chilled him in spite of the unbearable heat. He remembered. That night in the wood of Avonland Forest, he assumed the form of a wolf. Lord El had said the possession would do no harm. Then again, he had used the dactyl at the cliffs just outside the Forbidden Garden. The great leader had assured him the effects on his figure were temporary. Moloch snarled under his breath. It will give me time. Temural stood in the grand hall waiting for Moloch and the others to catch up. Your preparations are shaping up nicely. Temural complimented a supervisor in passing. What do you think of our wall? He asked. Lord El was right. Towering pillars hewn from the stone wall were lined with intricate carvings depicting the Great Revolution. Temural stared at the ongoing construction and nodded his head with satisfaction. The lessers do need something to inspire them, to boost their morale. The newly fashioned gates did lend a certain quality of grandeur, reminiscent of those other gates rarely mentioned now, except in hushed tones when they were sure Lord El could not hear them. How wise of the great leader to keep the lessers busy with the trivial work of transforming the winding tunnels and caverns into a worthy abode. A group of less tightly woven, criss-cross patterns trudged down the path to the lower realms. Temural shuddered. No one wanted to go to the lower realms. But as Lord El had said, someone has to do it, and it might as well be those who have proved themselves unworthy of greater tasks. He did wonder why they needed so many of those bars, and all those rooms, well, more like holes. Were they necessary? But now that I have caused a great victory, surely Lord El will promote me to the powers. I'll be able to come and go as I please. I'll be in on the plans for our next battle. Temural watched Moloch's loathsome figure saunter into the great hall, followed by a few commanders, a squadron of soldiers, and a couple of lessers they had carried along for menial tasks. You would think that fool would learn some humility by now. How dare he raise his head to glower at me? Temural whipped out his blazing sword again. Remember, Moloch, just stay back or I'll whip that dog, called a smooth voice dripping with warmth. I do appreciate your enthusiasm, but you must watch that temper of yours. Oh! Temural spun around quickly and bowed. Lord El, do forgive me, I didn't see. No need to explain, Temural, the great leader answered with a wave of his hand. All is forgiven. I take it, leader answered with a wave of his hand. All is forgiven. I take it you too have good news. Well, actually, Lord El, it is I who bring glad tidings, Temural said, stepping forward as he cast a warning glance Moloch's way. Do tell, my loyal Temural, have my plans wrought their purpose? They have indeed, Lord El. You are most wise. Our encounter with the humans worked a most interesting result on two fronts. Go on, Temural. The great leader walked toward Moloch and looked him over with a curious stare. We infiltrated the city of Nod at a most opportune time, too. The one called Lamech was in a fine mood, just suited for our purpose, and that has demonstrated his reasoning plainly. Temural paused with excitement. Lord El, Samjaza is exercising his freedom. He has taken on human form, and all the others with him. That is fine news indeed, Temural. Not that I'm surprised. No, I knew it, expected it. Surely I planned it all along. I knew it, expected it. Surely I planned it all along. I had my sights set on Captain Samjaza for quite some time. I knew he was too smart to stay in bondage to the beloved. That's why I shared the treachery of the beloved with him. I told him of the beloved's plan to annihilate us through these human beasts. But I shared the good news with him. My pearl, Lord L asked as he approached him and stopped inches away from his face. Did he convince that idiot Lamech to cooperate? Temurel knew the only answer Lord L would accept, and fortunately he didn't have to lie about it this time. Oh, yes, indeed, my lord. I was the one who inspired Samjaza to go forth with boldness. I was unrelenting in my persuasion and influence. I told him of the beloved's treachery repeatedly, bombarding him until he had to see reason. Finally, he did see the truth. Of course he did, Temurel. The great leader strolled over to one of the powers and grabbed his gleaming weapon. Now tell me, was a union consummated because those were your orders? If my memory serves me correctly. Lord L rapped the tall weapon against the stone floor like a staff as he approached Temurel. Oh, well, actually, I'm not sure. Temurel, are you telling me one of my best warriors, who I have called and chosen to perform the simplest of tasks, doesn't know? Pointed the blade toward Temurel's throat. Well, no, I mean to say, Temurel stammered. Lord L, if you please. Moloch interjected in a low tone. I believe I can be of some service to you here. Good. I'm glad all my soldiers have not succumbed to utter foolishness. Please speak, said calmly as he continued to hold the blade against Temurel's throat. My lord, while Temurel was wasting his time frolicking among the humans and doing that which was unnecessary, for indeed, my lord, you had already convinced Samjaza of the truth, and his blabbering was not needed. I, Moloch, ensured the union went forth. I did convince the woman called Naima to submit to Samjaza. In fact, she was quite enraptured by him after I got finished with her. Feeble mind. You can be sure, my lord, that Captain Samjaza of the Elohim and the woman are, as the humans say, husband and wife. Excellent. This is praiseworthy news indeed, the great leader says. He forced Temurel down to the ground with his blade. Although I must say, Moloch, you have seen better days. There's so much hair about you I wouldn't know if you were coming or going, if it weren't for that humongous nose on you. Lord L laughed. As if on cue, a multitude of principals, powers, rulers, and lessers began cackling wildly. Moloch seemed unmoved by the jeers, so common now. Temurel focused on the dirt and willed himself to be still. Moloch's response might get him out of this one. Moloch clenched a short dagger polished to perfection and almost hidden in his hairy hands. Lord L, you are the cause of this atrocity. You mock me. Moloch looked as if he would wipe the smug smile off the great leader's face if he took one step closer. Now, Moloch, Lord L said as he pressed the tip of the blade slowly into Temurel's neck. Put that silly dagger down. I'm just having a bit of fun with you, eh? There's no need to be so sensitive. After all, this revolution has left its mark on us all, myself included. Grunts and moans filled the great hall as rulers and lessers alike agreed, arms lifted showing maimed wings, burns and boils plenteous on the once perfect figures. But my comrades, my faithful, the great leader said, lifting his voice for all to hear, your condition is only temporary. Yes, we are bruised. Yes, we are battered. But our pain unites us and makes us one. It is a reminder of our great purpose, and for that I suffer them gladly. Lord L dropped the blade from Temurel's neck and flew swiftly to the highest ledge in the cavern. I will restore your former glory. Lord L suddenly burst hues of that other place. Even as we speak, I am preparing new bodies for you, bodies that can live in this world and partake of its pleasures. Once again, you will taste sweet flavors and experience the cool breeze. You will laugh with pleasure and sing for joy. But this time you will do it without the bondage of that cruel usurper. This time you will do it without the bondage of that cruel usurper, the beloved, and the foolishness of the great laws. No, this time you will be free. The leaders and lessers cheered with glee. Anami followed the girl Tafara closely. She's several times to stay with the group, but when Father Seth wasn't looking, she darted ahead of the party. Stay with the girl, Azam told him sternly. The other watchers can aid me. Just make sure no harm comes to her. Anami was about to ask Azam if one of those other watchers could go instead, but seeing the set look on Azam's face, he quickly hid his He quickly hid his disappointment and caught up with the girl. Now here he was, trudging nimbly behind Tafara over the rocky path she'd taken away from the others. Great, I get to trail this woman who is barely more than a childling, while Azam gets to have all the adventure. Tafara jumped from rock to rock, down, down, down the winding trail. I do hope Naima is well. Father and Enoch were moving as slow as tortoises. She leaped across a wide crevice to a large boulder at least 2 lengths away, landing perfectly. Perhaps sleep had protected their kin. Tubal Khan, he would do anything to gain his father's approval. Tafara jumped again, aiming for another large stone jutting out of the rocky path. Not even Naima's mother will try to stop Lamech's cruelty. No, I will make sure she's well. Anami hopped easily from rock to rock, duplicating Tafara's steps. I say, this is sporting. At least she knows how to steps. I say, this is sporting. At least she knows how to have a little fun. But she really should slow down. Tafara moved faster now that she could see the valley below, and nestled neatly within it the Seti of Adama. Tafara took one last leap toward a large boulder fixed firmly at the edge of the cliff, stretching out her lean legs toward the target. Her right foot connected, but before she could plant her left down beside it, she heard the unmistakable sound of gravel sliding. The rock teetered. Tafara's arms flailed wildly about as she tried to regain her balance. "Oh, Father!" Tafara lurched backwards to counteract the forward motion of the rock. She was too late. She felt the stone slip away from her feet. Tafara fell forward and squeezed her eyes shut and opened them again. Tafara stared over the cliff in disbelief. She was hovering somehow over the edge. What? She reached back, twisting her head over her shoulder. Wait! There was nothing there. How? Tafara landed. There was nothing there. How? Tafara landed soundly on her backside and looked up at the gentle blue of the firmament overhead. She breathed deeply to calm her heart, which was still pounding in her chest. What just happened? Surely the Ancient One has favored me today. Anami rested too as he laid flat on his back beside Tafara. Yes, he has favored you, but a simple thank you will do. You really should be more careful next time. I should be more careful next. No! A blood-curdling scream echoed from the valley. Tafara crouched on the ledge, searching for the source, listening. That sounded like... Tafara entered. She peered over the edge. That's Naima. That's Samjaza. Anami scowled as the Elohim picked up a young girl and carried her toward a tent. She struggled helplessly against Captain Samjaza. What is he doing? Tafara grabbed a stone and reared back, aiming for Samjaza. In mid-arc, something grabbed her arm. It felt as if 1,000 ants marched up her limbs and down her spine. I swear a hand touched me. Tafara froze. Something is here. She stared straight ahead at the valley, too afraid to look right or left. At least a dozen or more Elohim moved into the clearing. Tafara shuddered. He had harmed Samjaza, the other Elohim, all equipped with bow and arrow, would surely have struck her down. Tafara shivered, though the breeze was slight and warm, squinting as she searched the sky. Only powdery clouds bathing in the sun stared back. She searched below. All was quiet in the Green Valley, except for Naima's heart-wrenching cries. Very well then, hide if you will. I may be a woman, but I'm no fool. I know you are there, so whatever you are. Thank you. Anami stood behind the girl, shaking his head in disbelief. His comrades, some of them friends, were breaking every oath. He looked at the human girl beside him with new respect. The dainty figure still had her weapon ready. I was wrong. All of the adventurers. Chapter 13. Not Intended. Samjaza looked down on the girl with disgust. What had I seen in her? She lay cowering in the corner with her knees pulled tightly to her chest. Only a coarsely woven garment covered her nakedness. The Elohim outside the tent were speaking quietly. The sound of hearty, though hushed, laughs interrupted their language speech, and the whimpers, louder now, coming from inside. The girl was crying. Be silent, Samjaza commanded, as he paced back and forth restlessly in the confines of the tent. How dare she react this way? She should be honored to be the first. He remembered the evening before. Glorious sensations had filled his being as he knew the girl, just as Lord El had said. The power and exhilaration he felt was as great as that of battle. The satisfaction of victory was as sweet. Then she had to ruin it with her pleading and crying. Why should he stop something so glorious? He looked at the blood-soaked cushions on which she had lain. She was weak, not worthy of an Elohim. Yet she had been pleasing, and she was beautiful. Even now, with her long dark hair falling over her tear-streaked face, her shoulders shaking as she sobbed, something stirred in him. The longing, the desire that he felt in the darkness was returning. "When shall the childling arrive?" he demanded as he stooped down and cupped her face gently in his hands. The tenderness of his touch made the cruelty of his tone even colder. "I do not know," she stammered, pulling away from him. "There is no way to know for sure until—" "Until what?" Samjaza asked brusquely, tightening his grip on her jaw until she cried out with pain. "Let me go!" Nema begged. Samjaza released her chin with a push so that she fell backwards. "Very well, but answer quickly or you will pay dearly for it." "It's me," she answered cautiously as she massaged her chin. Samjaza rushed toward her, kicking over a basket of food in the process. "What is this you speak of, girl? Would you lie to your husband?" Samjaza asked with a sardonic smile as he watched her back further into the corner. "No, I speak the truth," she replied quickly. "Any Badisi will tell you the same. The blood of life flows from us, each daughter of Eve, once before the next new moon comes. When the blood of life remains within us, a new life begins." "Very well then. You will remain in my tent until the next new moon. The ceremony will take place after the sign of new life." Samjaza brushed the folds of the tent aside and tossed a bundle backward. "Adorn yourself." Samjaza gave a curt nod to his men surrounding the tent. "Guard her," he ordered. "No one is to enter." He brushed past one of the bumbling humans assigned to serve him, ignoring the hand raised to get his attention, and headed toward the thick cluster of trees. He needed to be alone, to think. Lita stumbled out of Bana Elohim Samjaza's path, sweating profusely. Of course, one as great as he would not notice a simple Sabasi such as I. Lita shook his head as he silently berated himself and turned back in the opposite direction. He had been looking for Nema since the celebration of the firstborns ended. He had tried to find her after completing the last chore Captain Samjaza had given him, but he returned too late. Nema had already joined her brother Tubal-Khan for the communion meal, and when he saw Lamech enter the tent in a foul mood, he knew better than to approach uninvited. "Yes, I was right to wait. Lamech would have been furious at any intrusion. He would have thought me presumptuous indeed to approach. Yet as one betrothed to his daughter, perhaps it would have been acceptable. As one soon to be like a son to him, my presence should have been welcomed." Lita turned back, moving with newfound purpose toward the Elohim guarding the tent. He ignored his clammy hands and the increasing grumbling in his belly. He had not had a meal since Son's birth. He became worried when he had not found Nema in her family's tent or with the Sabasi preparing the dawn's meal, nor had she been at the stream with the women drawing water. Everyone he approached said they hadn't seen her, but some seemed to know more, even though they denied it when he asked if they were sure. Finally, he ran into Nema's mother Zilla, who mentioned she last saw Nema with Captain Samjaza. Lita couldn't believe Nema would go off alone with a stranger, even if he was an honored guest. No, not Nema. What happened to Tafara and Tubal-Khan? Surely Lamech would never allow such a thing. Still, the gnawing uneasiness in his belly grew. Lita took a deep breath before addressing the Elohim Hazazel, sitting on a large stump next to the tent. "Please pardon my boldness." Lita nodded and bowed. "But might I ask if you have seen Sabasi Nema?" "Well, of course I have seen her, human," Hazazel replied, looking up casually from the wooden piece in his hands. "She's magnificent, isn't she?" "What?" Lita asked, his face paled. "My design, human," Hazazel said, holding out the curving figure to Lita. "Isn't she pleasing?" "Yes, she is." Lita stammered as the color returned to his cheeks. "She is quite a beautiful piece of art." Lita paused for a moment as he watched Hazazel wooden woman. He took a deep breath again as he smoothed his hands over his tanned sash. "Please pardon me again, honored one, but I thought you said you saw Nema?" "I did say that, human." "Oh!" Hazazel stopped whittling and focused on Lisa's eyes intently. Are you slow? I have heard that some of you are slow. No, not at all, Lita said, understanding his mistake. What I meant to ask was, do you know where Sabasi Nema is now? Well, of course, Hazazel said as he waved his hand over his shoulder. She's in the tent. Lita bowed slightly as his hands moved over his sash again. Honored one, might I go in and greet her? Certainly not, Hazazel replied, not bothering to look up. He used his small knife to skim over the figurine with precision. Lita blinked with confusion as the light of sun's peak flickered through the clouds. He shaded his eyes, then smoothed his hands over his sash once more, and stopped suddenly. He thought he heard the faint sound of whimpering. He strained and listened carefully. No, that was crying. Nema was inside crying. Lita gulped and tried again. Please, honored one, allow me to greet Nema and inquire of her well-being this day. Sorry, human. Captain's orders. Hazazel stretched to his full height. No one is to go in. But this is not our way, Lita protested, ignoring the ball in his stomach. I am her intended. Father Lamech will be outraged at this insult to his family. What is your name, human? Hazazel. My name is Lita, son of Cain. Well, Lita, son of Cain, Father Lamech is fully aware of these arrangements. It is he who made them with Banah, Samjaza of the Elohim, this last sun's sleep. Hazazel raised his voice. So you certainly may not see Nema at all. The other Elohim, busy assembling large shelters nearby, stared at the disturbance. Lita backed away, but not before he stumbled over a tree root. He flushed as he righted himself and ran back into the woods. Poor Lita, Tafara murmured under her breath as she watched Lita run away. Too much, Anami agreed out loud, not that she could hear him. I must tell the others. Wait. Behind him, two small hands clutched the edge of the cliff. Tafara was scaling the face of the cliff to the valley below. That woman is unwell. But then again, her tan covering and tawny skin blended into the rock wall. They might not notice her if she was quiet. In a few moments, Tafara landed softly behind a thicket of scrubby bushes at the base of the cliff. Samjaza's men might not see her, but they will spot me. Without another thought, Anami jumped and landed next to Tafara in an instant. The Elohim continued talking without even a glance their way. Tafara ran like the wind up the straight and narrow path with a flash of light behind her. Delmar paced back and forth, considering his predicament. Did Samjaza have some hidden knowledge? A new strategy of the Ancient One, perhaps? Delmar glanced around the camp absently. There were no fallen here as far as he could tell, just the normal bustle of the tribe preparing for the ceremony. Delmar tensed and shook his head. Maybe there is still a chance. If Samjaza has not done that which is eternal, perhaps he may be restored. If I can speak with him alone without fallen present, I might be able to. His called sharply. Delmar snapped his head up. Anami approached from the woods just across from the tents of the Medici. Do you have to be so obvious? Delmar asked with irritation. What if Fallen had been about? You would have revealed my presence and my name too, no less. Delmar, there are no Fallen here. The sun is at peak. Never mind that now. I have news. Yes, I have much to tell you too. Captain Samjaza has what? Anami and Delmar both turned to face Azam, who had just arrived from escorting the elders of Seth from the cove back to the Seti. You won't believe it. I saw Samjaza. Anami began. Azam raised his finger to his lips. Follow me. Anami and Delmar trailed behind Azam as he wove in and out the families of Adam, unseen, until finally he stopped just beneath a crop of giant cypresses. Azam paused and in one movement whisked them up into the treetops. Okay, Anami whispered, we're alone now. This secrecy. We don't know the extent of Samjaza's error or his influence. Until we do, we cannot speak freely, even among our brothers. Then we must hurry. Anami leaned in closer as he lowered his voice. Our captain has fallen indeed. How do you know? Azam asked. You can't accuse him without proof. You would be charged with insubordination and rebellion. I have proof. Samjaza and a few of his closest lieutenants are building dwellings with the sons of Cain. Samjaza has done that which is unseemly. You saw them too? Delmar asked so loudly he startled a massive flock of crows roosting in the trees. Their sudden flight drew the attention of everyone below. All clamor ceased while the elders stared at the sky, searching for the cause of the omen. "More discretion, my friend," Azam said sternly once the camp settled down. "I was at Tubal Khan's for communion." Delmar's voice was barely audible now. Simjaza, Hazazel, Yemezrik, and a few others were consorting with the humans uncloaked. The fallen were about too. It was unbearable, but I did manage to observe them undetected. "What did you learn?" "Why are we sitting here doing nothing?" Anami asked. "I've already told you Simjaza has fallen." "Patience, Anami," Azam steered Delmar. "Then you can give your report. After Delmar." "Thank you." Delmar gave Anami a triumphant smile. Anami focused on the treetops, completely ignoring him. "Like I was saying before, it was unbearable. Simjaza and his men partook of the drink of power with the humans and shared in their fellowship. I was shocked. Speaking to the humans without orders is twisted enough, but what Simjaza said could put him in exile." "Delmar," Azam said, "please get to the essence quickly. The others will soon notice our absence." "Of course, Azam," Delmar said, ignoring Anami's satisfied smirk. What I mean to say is, Captain Simjaza has asked to be joined with the daughter of Eve. From the looks of it, the girl's father might have made an arrangement." "Enough is enough," Anami interrupted. "I've been trying to tell you to. Captain Simjaza has done more than arranged it. He has consumed the Union." "What?" Azam and Delmar, "We need reinforcements now. I followed the girl to Farah just like you asked. She led me straight to Simjaza's new home. He has already got himself a wife." "That cannot be," Azam said. "Captain Simjaza may be confused. Who wouldn't be with falling about? But this, no." "It can be, and it is," Anami insisted. "I saw it with my own eyes. It is recorded." Azam focused on the city below. The camp bustled with activity. Men and women laughed, going about their daily tasks, while children played, darting in and out of the ever-moving sabasis, preparing the next meal. "I see," he said after a long pause, aware their world would soon change. "Azam," Anami tapped his comrade's shoulder, "what should we do?" "You must return to Heaven's realm and follow the protocol." Azam began systematically checking the numerous weapons concealed beneath his cloak. "Delmar and I will guard the bearer." Anami turned to leave. "Anami, one more thing, to no one, and do not go by the gates of Araza. You must go through the heart of Eden." "But Azam, I can't go that way. The cherubim won't allow it." "You must convince them, Anami. It is the only way." This concludes chapters 10 through 13 of Taken, a metaphysical fantasy novel. If you enjoyed this excerpt, please check out the next chapters of Taken on this YouTube channel. Remember, eye has not seen, nor ear heard, nor have entered into the heart of man the things which God has prepared for those who love Him. Please share this uplifting read with your friends and get ready to soar. Thank you again for listening, and may the favor of the Ancient One be on you.